people, welcome back to another episode of UKPS, part 2 of the interview with the lifers, the deep dive into the world of the man that hasn't got a release date, unfortunately. This second one, we're going to look at looks can be deceiving. Yeah, looks can be deceiving. This man should tell you, definitely don't judge a book by its cover. I've spoken before about hobbies that inmates have in jail. This man's definitely into his art, and he's bloody good. But again, don't let looks be deceiving.
These are paintings that I've done for a charity. They're going to be auctioned in November. They're all reproductions, either from prints or photographs. This one is The Red Boy after Sir Thomas Lawrence. This one is after Judith Lacer. That's a 17th century painting originally. This one here particularly appeals to me. This is St Cecilia after John Waterhouse, who was a Victorian artist. I've done a larger version of this one. It appeals to me because I can see a lot of beauty in it, and there isn't a lot of that in this place at all. And I'm always looking for subjects like that.
Oh. Is that a geezer? Bit of a chin on it for a bird, but anyway. That's what I'm saying. Look at a painting. I've never seen anyone do any paintings like that. I've seen some good artists, and art comes in all sorts of forms, doesn't it? It's not just drawing on a bit of paper, but I've seen some really good drawers. People that do charge hundreds of pounds for just a picture, you know. Draw a picture of me kid, draw a picture of me mum, draw a picture of it. Yeah, 200 quid because they're good and you pay it. God, mate, if you're paying 200 quid for that sort of drawing, what are you paying for this? It's auctioning it off for a charity. Again, would you think this? If you met him on the street, would you say he was a lifer?
When I was speaking to you the other day, you remember that you said you found this place a little unreal, and I agreed with you. Well, I think I was wrong, because I thought about it afterwards, and this place is really very real to me. I think that's the problem. To the public, this place is unreal, and it's understandable. The public doesn't want to see a reflection of itself in this place, and it's very difficult. It creates barriers. There's no bridges, it's all wall.
That's, again, it's the same. People tell the same stories. It don't matter what decade. This was 1980. People were very much better spoken back then, weren't they? I mean, like, better spoken back then. I can't even talk right now. I said it in the last video. His intellect's dropping as the centuries go on, because all of these geezers on this show you'll see all sound super intelligent. Suppose when you're reading lots of books like they are back then, they're going to be a bit more well spoken, aren't they? I mean, what do we do now? We're growing extra muscles in the back of our necks to support our heads while we're looking down at our phones. I mean, but again, keep it in your mind. This geezer's a lifer. Don't judge a book by its cover.
And it's very difficult for everyone. My father died while I'd been in prison.
And I just wanted to say quickly as well. Sorry about that. That was a pause and unpause really quick. What he said about the disconnect between the public and, because they don't know, and that's such a true point. Again, prisoners, because we're the only ones that have ever been there and experienced it, we're the only ones that know what it's like, and people that have never been there always go, oh, chuck away the key. Is it ever else? This different time, different era, different haircuts, different accent, the same. It's not even a complaint, is it? Because, you know, we've put ourselves there, but it's just a reality. It's a reality, and if more people, it's just the way it is. And if more people on the street, the average person, knew what it was like in here, they might be a bit more, I don't want to say sympathetic, because, you know, again, you put yourself there. I'm not saying you deserve loads of sympathy off the public, you know, just the public that have suffered. But if they know what it was actually like, and they maybe experienced one day or of whatever, then they might be a bit more, well, that doesn't work, let's try something else, you know. But again, what do I know? I'm just an ex-prisoner.
Prison, nobody told me. So I went back to my hometown, and I couldn't stay at my mother's because I'm the black sheep of the family. So I went to stay with this chap who had invited me to stay with him. But one of the conditions of my staying there was that I indulged in homosexual activities with him. And I couldn't respond because I'm not homosexual. I didn't hold it against him because he was. But there was a masochistic...
Oh, what against him? What did you push against him? Or did he push against you? What did he have in his pocket?
...side to his homosexuality, which I found it very hard to handle. And I was only there 3 days, and I was due to leave the next day. And we had a serious argument about his life and about my life, because they were both in wrecks, because he'd been married and I'd been married. And
Michael Barrymore was married, George Michael was married. What was you pushing against each other? Just a little warning here. If you're a bit squeamish or whatever, you can jump out at any point. This gets a bit heavy. This gets a bit heavy-handed right now.
We were arguing, and I threatened him, and I said, I'll let you if you don't stop. And he said, no, I want you to. And he planted the seed, and the seed grew. He went through to the bedroom, and it's pretty frightening now even talking about it, I've got to admit it. And he called me through, and I went through to the kitchen, and I picked up a hammer that was on the side.
This is the artist that draws, God knows, mate, what he's drawing. Tudor paintings, like, you know, 1600 carbon copies of Michelangelo's Sixtine Chapel, whatever, and he's had a bit of a bickerment with a geezer that fancies him a little bit, and he's whipped out a hammer. I mean, and I'm not talking in innuendos here. He's you know what I mean.
I've lived that night 1,000 times, and as far as I can remember, I was going to threaten him with it. That and no more. But somewhere between the kitchen and the bedroom, I went over the top. He saw me come in. He must have known what I was about to do, and either through shock or fear, or both, he just lay there. And
genuine, hand on heart, I thought he was going to say then, he jumped up and, you know, so I thought, in a split second, I genuinely wasn't expecting him to say, well, he just laid there out of shock, fear, whatever, just kicking it. I didn't expect him to say that. Again, this is all the paintings around him.
And I struck him with the hammer on the head. I never heard any sound at all. I never heard anything. I felt alienated from it, if you like.
So he was laying on his bed. He didn't get up or anything, and he didn't make a noise. I mean, and it was night time. I don't want to sound like I'm into anything, in any conspiracies or anything. But he might have been asleep. I don't know.
It was almost as though I was standing back and watching somebody else do it. I felt a great deal of fear, but I couldn't relate to the situation at all. I was alien from it. Anyway, I hit him more than once. I don't know how many times I hit him. And I heard a crashing sound. I thought it sounded like a vase.
Bit like Van Gogh, this geezer, isn't he? I mean,
Smashing, but it was his skull hitting the wall.
So nice. He paints a vivid picture as well. Not just good with a brush, he's good at linguistically. He's a cunning linguist.
And so I seemed to snap out of it, and I went back next door, and he was making a lot of noise because he wasn't dead, and I couldn't understand why he wasn't dead, and I went back through and switched the light on.
I mean, it's like Freddy Krueger, isn't it? Again, you would never guess in a million years if this geezer was standing in front of you, even if you was banged up, you'd never guess that if he went Go on, tell me what I'm in for. You never say it. You'd never get it. You'd think fraud or something, or cat burglar.
And saw what I'd done. The one thing I can never forget is the smell, because his brains were exposed.
I mean, what's the film? Hannibal. Hannibal springs to mind, mate.
In fact, they were over the wall, on the bed, on the floor, and me. And I wanted to run. I wanted.
I mean, if he's ever turned this into a book or anything, I want to read it, mate. I mean, he proper pulls you in with him speaking, doesn't he?
To get away. But I couldn't leave him. He was fighting for his life, and I couldn't leave him. That was it. So I went back next door, and I picked up the phone, and I phoned the police. I said, I've just killed somebody. He wasn't dead, but that's what I said. I remember the woman surprised at the other end of the phone. And I found out afterwards that she was a trainee, and it must have really frightened her.
Who told him it was a trainee? Who phoned your mum? Wait, that was a trainee. You scared her? I'm not trying to downplay it, but ain't it her job? But yeah, imagine that, mate. I mean, again, looks deceiving. He looks like a snooker. He looks like Steve Davis.
And she said, "You just stay where you are. You know, don't go. Just stay where you are." And I couldn't stay. I couldn't stay because I could hear him next door, and I couldn't stay there. I couldn't take any more. And I ran down the stairs, and I went out the back and over the fence and started to run. And there must have been a police car in the area because he came up. And by the time I thought, well, where am I going to go? So I came back. And as I came back, the police officer was coming back down the stairs. And he met me. He'd just seen what I'd done upstairs, and he met me. He was coming down for his first aid equipment.
I mean, first aid? Sounds like it's like, I can't even think of a word for. Imagine that though, even if you was an old Bill. Imagine even if you was old Bill walking up and seeing that. I mean, because he described it spot on, really. I mean, it's not like in the movies where a geezer gets one in the leg and gets up and carries on running, or or someone gets hit with a, in his words, a hammer, or someone picks up a bottle, or a bat. Someone gets hit on the face and they carry on. The first hit, their head's busting. The second hit, you're probably you're seeing bone. And the third one, have you ever dropped a watermelon on the floor? I mean, it's and walking in on that 5-year-old Bill. I mean, all the training in the world ain't gonna. It's got to be his first time seeing something like that as well.
It must have terrified him because I was covered in blood, and he'd just seen that upstairs, and I because I was myself then, as it were, as near as I could be under the circumstances, I said to him, "Don't. It's okay. Don't be afraid," because I knew he must have been afraid. He was nearly crying, and he was a man that knew me.
I would have been as well. Serious? What?
In a little country town like that, everybody knows you. He knew me since I was a child. The life sentence was right. I was given a life sentence for manslaughter on the grounds of administration.
What? Manslaughter? Winning? Lucky springs to mind.
Responsibility. A doctor diagnosed me as a psychopath. To be honest, Rex, that word psychopath doesn't mean a great deal to me. It's a label, and it sets me apart from society. If society could relate to what I did, they don't want to do that. They don't want to see that. So I can understand it because society's got enough on its plate. I mean, and there I am doing a thing like that. I can't be normal in their eyes. I can't be a human being to be able to do that because it was a terrible thing. I've destroyed something, and there's nothing I can do to change that. But
Is he right? Is he right? Can you be normal and do something like that? The amount of times he did it.
I do care, you know. I care, and I've always cared, and I'll always go on caring what I've done. I mean, I can't forget it in my sleep. If I try to forget it when I'm awake, I have to forget it when I'm asleep. I'm lucky, Rex. I've got this. Some men can't even read, you know. What it's like then, I don't know. But it's difficult. I mean, I've been in prison before, as you know, on small sentences for petty offences. But it wasn't like this. Sometimes I can feel it. When I step out the door, I can feel the tension and I feel afraid. I don't mind admitting that. Sometimes I feel afraid. Because if I ignore the fear, then I'm going to be in trouble. I'd only been here a couple of weeks when somebody was stabbed.
That's one thing that's changed. It took you that long to see something like that. Nowadays, you ain't got to be in an A-cut either.
And the tailor's right in front of me. And, you know, prisons I've been in before, I've never seen anything like that. And the guy just come up to me and said, I said, where am I? Says, he said, I've just stuck me in somebody. He didn't care, you know. I'm not saying that is an accurate picture of the men in this wing. There's a lot of good men in this wing. I've got friends in this wing, people who I'd be happy to call friends. But there are one or two who I like to avoid. It's not a case of judging, it's a case of survival.
He seems like a level-headed, cool geezer, doesn't he? It's the sort of geezer you chat to on the wing and have it with and borrow a book and punch coffee off him like all the time. Seems like he'd always have coffee and burn, you'd always hit him up. And then you go one day, he goes, have you ever heard? You go, what? Mate, like I said, looks can be deceiving. What do you think? Does he look the sort that could do that sort of thing? Or could that sort of thing happen to anyone? Who the hell knows? If you like that, hit me up on part 3. Adios.